9 experienced hikers walked out into the freezing dark without their shoes, without their coats, because staying inside their tent was somehow worse. And to this day, no one can explain why. Hey y'all, it's Kaylin, and welcome to Tales from the Thicket. Now this one doesn't come from the thicket, but it definitely belongs here. Back in January 1959, a group of hikers set out on a winter expedition in the Soviet Union. They left from a city called Sverdlovsk. They weren't beginners, they were experienced hikers. Their goal was to reach a mountain called Otorten, deep in the Ural Mountains, and this wasn't an easy trip. This was the highest difficulty level at the time. Their leader was a 23-year-old named Igor Dyatlov. Smart, organized, trusted. The kind of person you'd expect to get everyone home safely. At first, there were 10 of them, but one turned back early because he wasn't feeling well. That decision saved his life. The remaining 9 continued on, and that was the last time anyone saw them alive. On February 1st, they set up camp on the side of a mountain. They could have camped lower, somewhere more protected, but they didn't. They chose the exposed slope, most likely to train in harsh conditions. The name of that mountain, Holet Siakul, which roughly translates to Dead Mountain. Yeah, not comforting. That night, something happened. Their tent wasn't opened, it was cut from the inside. Not unzipped, not unclipped. They took a knife and sliced their way out. Several slashes, and then all 9 of them left. No boots, no proper clothing. Some of them were barely dressed at all, and the temperatures that night dropped to around negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. That's deadly. And here's what really stands out. They didn't run. The footprints showed they walked, calm, controlled, in a line, about a mile down toward the trees. And that's the part that sticks with me, because panic doesn't look like that. People trip, they scatter, they run. This was controlled. Like they left on purpose, but didn't have time to explain why. Search teams didn't find them right away. It took weeks. When they found the campsite, the tent was still there, collapsed, abandoned, cut open from the inside. Then they started finding bodies. The first 2 were near the trees, barely dressed. They had tried to build a fire. Their hands were burned. And the tree above them, branches snapped high up, like they had climbed it to look for something, or get away from something. 3 more were found between the trees and the tent, like they were trying to make it back. Then, weeks later, they found the last 4, buried deep under the snow in a ravine. Now here's something a lot of people don't realize. Those last 4 hikers weren't just wandering. They were trying to survive. They had moved into a ravine, and it looks like they were digging into the snow, basically creating kind of a snow cave. And that's actually a real survival technique. You dig in, block the wind, trap your body heat, and in the right conditions, it can keep you alive. So they were thinking clearly. They were trying to make it. But that's where it gets hard to explain. Even if that shelter collapsed, that alone doesn't fully explain the kind of injuries they had. 1 had a fractured skull, 2 had crushed chests, the kind of force investigators compared to a car crash. But there were no external injuries to match, no clear cause, just damage with nowhere to come from. One of them was missing her tongue. Others were missing their eyes. Some clothing tested positive for radiation, and several bodies had strange orange tint to their skin. The official explanation? A compelling natural force. That's all we got. So let's walk through what people think happened. Some people think maybe it was an animal, even something like a yeti. But there were no animal tracks. And I already know what some of y'all are thinking. Maybe the snow covered the tracks. Yeah, that could make sense. Except for one problem. The hikers' footprints were still visible weeks later. So if their tracks were still there, anything else would have been there too. No extra footprints, no signs of anything else. So that theory doesn't hold up. Then there's the military theory. Strange lights were seen in the sky. There was radiation, and the injuries could match a pressure blast, but nothing was ever confirmed. Then there's infrasound, something you can't hear, but your body reacts to. It can cause panic, dread, irrational fear. Then there's the avalanche theory. But experienced hikers choosing that spot, plus their tent wasn't buried, so that part doesn't quite fit either. And then there's something we don't fully understand. Multiple people reported strange orange lights in the sky around that same time. And when you line that up with everything else, radiation, internal injuries, the way they left that tent, it starts to feel less like coincidence and more like something we don't have a name for. We actually have a lot of answers. We know where they went. We know what they were doing. We know how they were found. But we don't have the answer. And when none of the explanations fully work, you're not looking at a solved mystery. You're looking at something we don't fully understand yet. Because whatever happened out there made 9 experienced hikers choose the freezing dark over the safety of their own shelter. And that still doesn't sit right with me. What do you think? Give me your theories in the comments. If you think it's something else other than what I've already mentioned, I want to hear about it. And hey, did you spot Ashroot or Lumi hiding somewhere? Drop the timestamp in the comments. And if you want to go deeper, I'll leave extra breadcrumbs over on Patreon. Keep your lanterns lit and your eyes on the shadows.